Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into cannabidiol, or CBD, and its rapidly expanding role in animal health. Our mission really is to unpack what the latest scientific findings reveal about CBD's influence on various animal conditions. We're specifically going zero in on pain, anxiety, and seizures. We'll also look closely at any reported side effects and its potential as a future medicine for our beloved pets. And this isn't just based on, internet chatter. We're drawing from a stack of rigorous scientific articles, controlled clinical trials, and comprehensive reviews to give you the clearest, most reliable picture we can.
That's a perfect starting point, yeah. To really understand CBD's potential, we first need to get a handle on what it actually is and how it interacts with an animal's body. So cannabinoids are a group of compounds basically obtained from hemp, which is a specific variety of cannabis sativa L. Now, when people hear cannabis, a lot of them immediately think of THC, that's delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol.
Oh, the stuff that gets you high.
Exactly. The compound known for its psychoactive effects. But CBD, or cannabidiol, well, it's different. It's non-psychotropic.
Meaning no high for the pet.
Precisely. It doesn't cause a high, and it's actually the most widely studied compound from hemp for therapeutic uses. And despite some ongoing, legal and ethical complexities surrounding cannabis generally, hemp-derived compounds like CBD are definitely gaining significant medical acceptance for their documented benefits.
Okay, so it's not about getting your pet high at all. It's more about harnessing those other beneficial properties.
Wow.
But how exactly does CB deliver those effects inside their bodies? What's the mechanism?
That's where the endocannabinoid system, or ECS, comes into play. What's really fascinating about the ECS is that it's this complex biological system found in almost all animal species, from fish right up to, Fido.
Wow, almost all species.
Pretty much. Think of it like a finely tuned orchestra conductor for the body. It modulates essential biological processes. The ECS basically has three main players. First, you've got endogenous ligands. These are naturally produced messengers called endocannabinoids, like anandamide. Your pet's body makes these itself.
Okay, natural messengers.
Second, there are receivers, sort of like special antennae on cells. They're called G-protein coupled receptors, mostly CB1 and CB2.
Antennas, got it.
And third, there's a cleanup crew, enzymes that break down these messengers, the endocannabinoids, once their job is done.
And these receptors you mentioned, the CB1 and CB2, they're in different spots and do different things, right?
Exactly right. CB1 receptors are really abundant in the central nervous system, the CNS, think brain and spinal cord areas. Their activation can inhibit pain signals, and yes, they are the receptors linked to THC's psychoactive effects.
Okay.
On the other hand, CB2 receptors. They're mainly found in peripheral tissues, immune cells, and those supporting cells around neurons. These are mostly associated with anti-inflammatory and pain-relieving reactions, and they also influence the immune system.
So if the ECS is the conductor, it helps manage things like pain and inflammation.
Precisely. This system helps modulate crucial processes, including pain, anxiety, inflammation, memory, and even immune function. For dogs and cats specifically, the ECS interacts with various brain chemicals, neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, plus the body's own natural pain-relieving compounds to help manage pain. It's a really intricate, fundamental system for their overall well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's turn our attention to what happens once CBD actually gets into your pet's body. We're talking pharmacokinetics here, how it's absorbed, where it goes, how it's processed, and how it leaves.
Right. So CBD and other cannabinoids, they're pretty easily absorbed because they're fat-soluble or liposoluble. This means they can be given in various ways. Orally, like in a treat or oil, through mucous membranes, transdermally through the skin, intravenously, or even sublingually under the tongue.
Lots of options then.
Yeah, and typically you might start seeing effects somewhere between, say, 30 minutes and maybe 2 hours after giving it. Once it's absorbed, CBD doesn't just hang out in the bloodstream. It can actually accumulate in fatty tissues, the liver, lungs, spleen, brain, and muscles.
So it gets into the system relatively quickly and then kind of spreads out. But what about how it's processed and, eliminated? Especially if a pet is on other medications, that sounds important.
It is very important. When given orally, CBD goes through this crucial processing step in the liver, often called first-pass metabolism. Think of the liver as a busy processing plant. Inside, it has specific worker enzymes, part of the cytochrome P450 family.
Yep.
Now, here's the kicker, and this is really crucial for you as a pet owner. CBD can actually interfere with the activity of those very same enzymes.
Interfere? How?
Well, it can either slow them down or sometimes speed them up. This means it has the potential to either increase or decrease the levels of other drugs given at the same time because those drugs often rely on the same enzymes for processing.
Wow, so it could make another drug much stronger or maybe weaker.
Exactly, which raises that critical question for pet owners. How might CBD interact with your pet's existing medications? It's definitely something that needs veterinary input. As for getting rid of it, these compounds are mostly removed through your pet's feces.
That's a vital point about drug interactions. Definitely something to talk to your vet about. And I've heard, too, that dogs and cats can process CBD quite differently. Is that actually true? And what does it mean for dosing?
It's absolutely true, and it really highlights why a one-size-fits-all dose just doesn't work. There was a 2019 study, Diebold and colleagues, that looked specifically at oral CBD given to healthy dogs and cats over 12 weeks. The findings showed really significant differences.
Okay, like what?
Well, for dogs, they saw a pretty strong mean maximum concentration, Cmax they call it. Basically, their bodies absorbed a good amount of the CBD, and it peaked relatively quickly, around 1.4 hours. The CBD was also eliminated from their system fairly fast, with a half-life of about 1 hour.
Okay, so dogs absorb it well and process it quickly. What about cats?
Totally different story. Cats showed significantly lower oral absorption. Their maximum concentration was much, much lower than the dog.
Really? That much lower?
Oh, yeah. Their Cmax was only about 43 ng/ml compared to over 300 for dogs in that study. And it took a bit longer to peak, around 2 hours for cats. Their elimination half-life was also a bit longer, about 1.5 hours.
So the take-home is, dogs absorb way more than cats from the same oral dose.
Essentially, yes. Dogs seem to be CBD power absorbers compared to cats. This isn't just a biological curiosity, it's critical. A dose that works for a dog might barely register for a cat.
Which means that one-size-fits-all dosing is really out.
Completely out. For you, this means dosing recommendations absolutely have to vary significantly between dogs and cats. And frankly, we need more research to figure out the best approach for cats.
Right. So we understand how CBD interacts with the body, the ECS, and how different species handle it. Now let's tackle the big question on so many pet owners' minds. What conditions are researchers actually hoping it can help with? And for many, pain is right at the top.
That's definitely one of the most promising areas, yeah. CBD is being seriously explored as a complementary, maybe even an alternative to traditional pain meds like NSAIDs and opioids for managing different kinds of pain, acute, chronic, even neuropathic pain in animals.
It's like arthritis pain. That's so common in dogs.
Exactly. Osteoarthritis, or OA, it's very common, and we know the endocannabinoid system plays a role in the disease process itself. So naturally, CBD has shown potential to help with that OA pain in dogs.
But I feel like I've seen some mixed results reported. Is it a sure thing for OA?
You're right to bring that up. It's not quite a slam dunk yet, and the nuance is important. A recent big review, a systematic review and meta-analysis from 2023 by Patacorn and others, looked at multiple studies on CBD for canine OA. They found that while CBD may reduce pain scores, the certainty of that evidence is actually rated as very low.
Very low. Why?
Mostly due to a high risk of bias in the studies they looked at. Things like small sample sizes, maybe issues with blinding. Basically, the quality of the research available so far isn't consistently strong. So some studies found relief, others didn't. It really is a mixed bag right now.
Okay.
What's interesting, though, is that studies where CBD was combined with other treatments, what we call multimodal therapy, sometimes showed a trend towards greater pain reduction than just CBD alone.
So maybe it works best as part of a team approach.
That could well be the case. It might be more effective as part of a broader treatment plan rather than a standalone solution for OA. And beyond OA, CBD does show promise in animal models for neuropathic pain. That tricky nerve pain, maybe from chemotherapy or diabetes. In those models, it's been shown to help prevent and reduce the neuropathy and maybe even protect the nerves. Plus, it has shown anti-inflammatory effects in arthritis models, helping with pain and improving temperature sensitivity.
Okay, that's really useful context on pain. What about seizures and anxiety? Two other huge concerns for pet owners.
Right. For seizures and epilepsy, the use of CBD has certainly picked up in research, especially in dog and rodent models. We've even seen that dogs with idiopathic epilepsy, that's epilepsy, without a clear cause, they actually show increased levels of anandamide, remember, one of those natural endocannabinoids?
Yeah, the body's own.
Right. Increased levels in their spinal fluid. This suggests the ECS is definitely involved somehow. Researchers are even looking at synthetic compounds that mimic cannabinoids as potential anticonvulsants for dogs with this condition. So there's significant interest there.
And anxiety. So many pets suffer from that storm phobia, separation anxiety. Is CBD helpful there?
Well, CBD does seem to have some general therapeutic properties in neuropsychiatric disorders. We've seen anxiolytic, that's anxiety reducing, and antidepressant effects in some animal models, like in specific mouse studies.
Okay, but what about our actual pets, dogs and cats?
That's where it gets a bit murkier. When we focus specifically on companion animals, studies looking at anxiety relief in dogs have shown mixed or limited results so far. For example, one study noted that CBD oil reduced some aggressive behavior in shelter dogs, which is interesting, but it didn't consistently find broader anxiety-reducing effects across the board.
Huh. So why the varied results, do you think?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really makes you wonder, is it the type of anxiety being studied? Is it the dose? The study design? Or maybe some anxiety is more behavioral and less directly managed by the biochemical pathway CBD influences?
Right.
It just really underscores that we need more specific, high-quality research focused directly on anxiety in our companion animals.
Okay. So clear promise in several areas, but the evidence is still very much developing, especially for some specific conditions in dogs and cats. Now let's talk about the big one, side effects and safety. Is CBD generally safe for our pets?
Broadly speaking, yes. Overall, CBD is generally considered safe and well-tolerated, particularly in the short term. And side effects in dogs tend to be mild and not very common. In fact, its safety profile often looks quite good compared to some traditional medications used for similar things in humans.
That's definitely reassuring to hear. What are some of those common mild side effects that pet owners might notice?
Well, based on both human and animal studies, the frequently reported mild ones include things like tiredness or drowsiness, maybe a decreased appetite, and sometimes diarrhea. In dogs specifically, one study noted loose stool in about 3.3% of observation periods. Occasional vomiting was seen too, but less often, around 0.45%. Pretty low.
Okay, relatively mild in dogs. You mentioned cats absorb it differently. Do they react differently too?
They certainly seem to. In cats, adverse effects appeared, well, more prominent in the studies we have. Things like excessive licking that was seen in over a third of observations in one trial.
A third. Wow.
Yeah. Also, head shaking in about a quarter, pacing, chomping or chewing motions, sometimes gagging, vomiting, and even excessive drooling or hypersalivation.
So quite a noticeable difference in potential reactions between dogs and cats. What about more significant concerns like impact on organs? The liver often comes up.
Right, and that's where we need to pay close attention. Some studies, particularly those using higher doses of CBD or involving dogs that already had conditions like OA or epilepsy,
Yeah.
they reported elevations in certain liver enzymes, specifically alkaline phosphatase or ALP.
Okay, what does an elevation like that mean?
Think of liver enzymes as indicators of liver activity or stress. An elevation can suggest the liver is working harder, maybe being stressed or slightly inflamed. It's thought this might be due to CBD interacting with those cytochrome P450 enzymes we talked about earlier, potentially inducing them, making them more active.
I see.
And in one study, a single cat also showed a persistent rise in another liver enzyme, ALT, while on CBD. It strongly suggests that higher levels of CBD could correlate with more side effects and potentially put more strain on the liver. It really hammers home that CBD is dose-dependent. The amount given matters a lot.
So dosing is absolutely key, and maybe monitoring liver enzymes could be important in some cases. And you mentioned earlier the interaction with other drugs via those liver enzymes. That seems like a really critical takeaway for people.
It truly is. It's worth repeating because it's so important. CBD interacts with that liver CYP450 enzyme system. Because it can slow down or speed up these enzymes, it directly affects how other drugs are processed, how they're metabolized.
Right.
This could lead to either too much or too little of another medication in your pet's bloodstream.
Which could be dangerous.
Potentially, yes. So, for you as a pet owner, it is absolutely non-negotiable. You must discuss any CBD use with your veterinarian, especially if your pet is taking any other medications at all. Also, just generally, the sources advise avoiding CBD in pregnant or nursing animals and in very young animals, say under 8 weeks old. And always remember, the chance of seeing side effects can relate to how long the pet is exposed, the specific product used, and critically, the dose.
That all makes perfect sense. Very important considerations. So, looking ahead now, what's the future perspective? Is CBD likely to become a mainstream medicine for pets? Where's the research heading?
Well, despite those ongoing discussions around legal and ethical stuff, there's definitely a clear and rapidly growing interest in CBD's therapeutic potential for pets. You see it everywhere. Cannabis extracts, even synthetic versions, are increasingly being looked at as potentially effective therapeutic options, especially for that multimodal pain management idea, combining different approaches. And also for various other conditions.
Mhm.
We're even seeing human-grade, tightly controlled CBD, THC products starting to undergo proper clinical tests in animals now. That's quite a significant step.
That is a real sign of progress. But what are the biggest hurdles? What do researchers really need to focus on next to solidify CBD's place, if it has one, in veterinary medicine?
The most significant gap right now, it's the lack of high-quality, large-scale, randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trials, specifically in companion animals, dogs and cats. So much of the current evidence, as we discussed with OA, has limitations, risk of bias, small numbers.
So better studies are needed.
Absolutely. The critical need is to establish truly optimal, safe, and effective doses. For different species, dogs versus cats, for instance, and for different conditions, pain versus seizures versus anxiety. We also desperately need good long-term safety studies, especially looking closely at potential liver effects over time.
Makes sense.
And, of course, more rigorous research into those drug interactions is essential if vets are going to use this confidently alongside other treatments.
So better studies, better studies, better studies. What does a better study design actually look like in this field, from a researcher's point of view?
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting for the science folks.
Mm.
Researchers are calling for specific improvements. For example, preferring parallel trials, where one group gets CBD, another gets placebo over crossover trials, where animals switch treatments halfway through.
Why is that better?
To avoid confusing carryover effects, since we don't fully know how long CBD really stays in the system or its effects linger, crossover designs can muddy the results. There's also a big push for better blinding, making sure neither the owner nor the researcher knows if the pet is getting real CBD or a placebo. This can be tricky because CBD often has a distinct smell, so masking that smell is important.
Ah, right. Keep it truly unbiased.
Exactly. And maybe most importantly, moving towards more objective measures of success, instead of just relying on subjective owner questionnaires, which can be influenced by hope or expectations.
Yeah.
Using things like specialized force plates to actually measure changes in how a dog walks, to assess pain, or using infrared thermal imaging to look for inflammation. More concrete data.
That sounds much more rigorous.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How will these kinds of advances change our whole understanding of CBD and maybe unlock even more precise ways to use it for pet health?
Precisely. The potential is there, but the robust science needs to catch up.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. Just to recap for everyone listening, CBD definitely holds significant promise for helping with various conditions in pets, especially things like pain. And generally, it seems to have a pretty favorable short-term safety profile, particularly in dogs. However, we've seen there are really crucial differences between species, like how dogs and cats absorb and react to it. And it's crystal clear that much more robust long-term scientific research is absolutely essential to fully understand its efficacy, its safety, and the best ways to use it across the board.
Absolutely. And this is why, for you, the listener, as a pet owner, it is always, always vital to consult with your veterinarian before introducing any new supplement. And that definitely includes CBD to your pets. Their professional guidance is just critical for your animal's health and well-being, especially with all this ongoing research and the individual nuances of each pet's health situation.
That's the key message. Always talk to your vet. Now, just a final thought to leave you with. As our scientific understanding of this whole endocannabinoid system in animals continues to expand, what new frontiers in veterinary medicine might CBD and maybe other cannabinoid-based therapies unlock for the future health and well-being of our furry companions? Something truly remarkable to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us in this deep dive into the fascinating world of CBD and animal health. I really hope you found this exploration as insightful and valuable as we did.